I'm Jeremy. Today is day 207 of reading. Today reading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Let's get started. We're on page 20 at the bottom. Harry had arrived at Hogwarts to find that heads turned and whispers followed him wherever he went. But he was used to it now. At the end of this summer, he would be starting his 4th year at Hogwarts, and Harry was already counting the days until he would be back at the castle again. But there was still a fortnight to go before he went back to the school. He looked hopelessly around his room again, and his eyes paused on the birthday cards his 2 best friends had sent him at the end of July. What would they say if Harry wrote to them and told them about his scar hurting? At once, Hermione Granger's voice seemed to fill his head, shrill and panicky. "Hey, your scar hurt? Harry, that's really serious. Write to Professor Dumbledore, and I'll go check common magical ailments and afflictions. Maybe there's something in there about cursed scars." Yes, that would be Hermione's advice. Go straight to the headmaster of Hogwarts, and, in the meantime, consult a book. Harry stared out of the window at the inky blue-black sky. He doubted very much whether a book could help him now. As far as he knew, he was the only living person to have survived a curse like Voldemort's. It was highly unlikely, therefore, he would find his symptoms listed in common magical ailments and afflictions. As for informing the headmaster, Harry had no idea where Dumbledore went during the summer holidays. He amused himself for a moment, picturing Dumbledore with his long silver beard, full-length wizard's robes, and pointed hat, stretched out on a beach somewhere, rubbing suntan lotion onto his long, crooked nose. Wherever Dumbledore was, though, Harry was sure that Hedwig would be able to find him. Harry's owl had never yet failed to deliver a letter to anyone, even without an address. But what would he write? "Dear Professor Dumbledore, sorry to bother you, but my scar hurt this morning. Yours sincerely, Harry Potter." Even inside his head, the words sounded stupid. And so he tried to imagine his other best friend, Ron Weasley's reaction. And in a moment, Ron's red hair and long-nosed freckled face seemed to swim before Harry, wearing a bemused expression. "Your scar hurt, but you know who can't be near you now, can he? I mean, you know, wouldn't you? He'd be trying to do you in again, wouldn't he? I do know, Harry. Maybe cursed scars are always twinge a bit. I'll ask Dad." Mr. Weasley was a fully qualified wizard who worked in the misuse of magical artifacts office at the Ministry of Magic. But he didn't have any particular expertise in the matter of curses. As far as Harry knew, in any case, Harry didn't like the idea of the whole Weasley family knowing that he, Harry, was getting jumpy about a few moments' pain. Mrs. Weasley would fuss worse than Hermione, and Fred and George, Ron's 16-year-old twin brothers, might think Harry was losing his nerve. The Weasleys were Harry's favorite family in the world. He was hoping that they might invite him to stay any time now. Ron had mentioned something about the Quidditch World Cup, and he somehow didn't want his visit punctuated with anxious inquiries about his scar. Harry netted his forehead with his knuckles. What he really wanted, and it felt almost shameful to admit it to himself, was someone like a parent, an adult wizard whose advice he could ask without feeling stupid. Someone who cared about him, and who had experience with dark magic. And then the solution came to him. It was so simple, so obvious, that he couldn't believe it had taken so long. Cyrus. He leapt up from the bed, hurried across the room, sat down at his desk. He pulled a piece of parchment toward him, loaded his eagle feather quill with ink, wrote, "Dear Cyrus," then paused, wondering how to best to phrase his problem, still marveling at the fact that he hadn't thought of Cyrus straight away. But then, perhaps it wasn't so surprising. After all, he had only found out that Cyrus was his godfather 2 months ago. There was a simple reason for Cyrus's complete absence from Harry's life until then. Cyrus had been in Azkaban, the terrifying wizard jail guarded by creatures called Dementors, sightless, soul-sucking fiends who had come to search for Cyrus at Hogwarts, when he had escaped. Yet Cyrus had been innocent. The murders for which he had been convicted had been committed by Wormtail, Voldemort's supporter, whom nearly everyone now believed dead. Harry, Ron, and Hermione knew otherwise. However, they had come face to face with Wormtail only the previous year, though only the Professor Dumbledore had believed their story. For one glorious hour, Harry had believed that he was leaving the Dursleys at last, because Cyrus had offered him a home once his name had been cleared, with a chance of being snatched away from him. Wormtail had escaped before they could take him to the Ministry of Magic, and Cyrus had to flee for his life. Harry had helped him escape on the back of a hippogriff called Buckbeak, and since then Cyrus had been on the run. The hope Harry might have had if Wormtail had not escaped had been hunting him all summer. It had been doubly hard to return to the Dursleys, knowing that he had so nearly escaped them forever. Nevertheless, Cyrus had been of some help to Harry, even if he couldn't be with him. It was due to Cyrus that Harry now had all his school things in his bedroom with him. The Dursleys had never allowed this before. Their general wish of keeping Harry as miserable as possible, coupled with their fear of his power, had led them to lock his school trunk in the cupboard under the stairs every summer prior to this. But their attitude had changed since they found out that Harry had a dangerous murder for a godfather, for Harry had conveniently forgotten to tell them that Cyrus was innocent. Harry had received 2 letters from Cyrus since he had been back at Privet Drive. Both had been delivered, not by owls, as was usual with wizards, but by large, brightly colored tropical birds. Hedwig had not approved of these flashy intruders. She had been most reluctant to allow them to drink from her water tray before flying off again. Harry, on the other hand, had liked them. They put him in the mind of palm trees and white sand, and he hoped that wherever Cyrus was, Cyrus never said, in case the letters were intercepted, he was enjoying himself. Somehow, Harry had found it hard to imagine Dementors surviving for long in the bright sunlight. Perhaps that was why Cyrus had gone south. Cyrus's letter, which were now hidden beneath the highly useful loose floorboard under his bed, sounded cheerful, and in both of them he had reminded Harry to call on him if Harry ever needed to. Well, he needed to now, all right. Harry's lamp seemed to grow dimmer as the cold gray light that precedes sunrise slowly crept into the room. Finally, when the sun had risen, when his bedroom walls had turned gold, and when sounds of movement could be heard from Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia's room, Harry cleared his desk of crumpled pieces of parchment and reread his finished letter. Dear Cyrus, thank you for your last letter. The bird was enormous. It could hardly get through my window. Things are the same as usual here. Doodley's diet isn't going too well. My aunt found him smuggling donuts into his room yesterday. They told him they'd have to cut his pocket money if he keeps doing it. So he got really angry and chucked his PlayStation out of the window. That's sort of a computer that you can play games on. Bit stupid, really. Now he hasn't even got a Mega Mutilation Part 3 to take his mind off things. I'm okay mainly because the Dursleys are terrified to you. You might turn up and turn them all into bags if I ask you to. A weird thing happened this morning, though. My scar hurt again. Last time that happened was because Voldemort was at Hogwarts, but I don't reckon he can be anywhere near me now. Can he? Do you know if Chris scars sometimes hurt years afterward? I'll send this with Hedwig when she gets back. She's